Hello and welcome to Good Evening Britain, a Force for Good's weekly show coming to you live from our studios here in the heart of the great British city of Glasgow, with me, your host, Alistair McConnachie, broadcasting on all our digital platforms throughout the world and around the United Kingdom. We're bringing you quality pro-UK comment and analysis every Wednesday from 7 until 8 p.m. And my goodness me, if I cannot get my smile off my face, today has been the most extraordinary day, really, in many ways. And I was speaking to somebody earlier and they said they can't even believe this. They think that the world probably ended about 6 months ago and now they're living in some kind of simulation because the events of today and the events of the present are almost beyond belief. We are, of course, talking about the arrest, not the called in for questioning, but the actual arrest of Nicola Sturgeon's husband, Peter Murrell. Today, at approximately 8:30 in the morning, several police cars skidded up to the front doors of their residence in the humble abode of an Uddingston estate and promptly hauled Mr. Murrell off to goodness knows where, and goodness knows where he is tonight, if he is indeed at Her Majesty's or His Majesty's pleasure at Police Scotland headquarters. Who knows? But he's not having a particularly good day of it. But the rest of us feel like it's a beautiful morning. We feel like it's a beautiful day. We've got a wonderful feeling that everything's going our way, as the song says. Well, goodness me, we're going to spend the next hour discussing these events, and we do want to hear what your particular thoughts on the matter are. At the bottom of the hour at 7:30, we have perhaps the best guest that we could have wanted for the show today. It's Niall Fraser, who is a firebrand activist, well known to many of us here in Scotland. And he's got a lot to say about this as well. And we're going to have a great chat with Niall. And so please do stick around for that as well. What a day. What a day of days it has absolutely been. Let's say hello to the people who are coming in for this programme. Good evening to Debbie on this glorious day, she says, a glorious day. AR Entertainment says hello, and Derek says good evening, Alistair, and fellow unionists around the world. We're doing great, and what great news we have had today. I wonder how many more will be heading for the chop. Well, that's such a good point, Derek, because there is no smoke without fire. And if somebody is implicated, and we're not saying that they are or not, but is allegedly implicated, then there are others going to be allegedly implicated. And perhaps we should just maybe remind ourselves of this. We'll put up just now the police statement which was made, and we'll just read that out in full for you, because it does raise, it tells us exactly what he's getting called in for. Here we go. This Police Scotland put this out today. Investigation into Scottish National Party funding and finances. Man arrested. A 58-year-old man has today, Wednesday the 5th of April, been arrested as a suspect in connection with the ongoing investigation into the funding and finances of the Scottish National Party. The man is in custody and is being questioned by detectives. Officers are also carrying out searches at a number of addresses as part of the investigation. Note, it says a number, so that's more than another one. There must be at least 3. A report will be sent to the Crown Office and Procurator Fiscal Service. And this is the important point that we'll just remind ourselves of. The matter is active for the purposes of the Contempt of Court Act 1981, and the public are therefore advised to exercise caution if discussing it on social media. As the investigation is ongoing, we are unable to comment further. Okay. So, yes, exercise caution, as they say. So everything is alleged at the moment regarding the funding of the Scottish National Party. And we certainly want to make that clear. But it's certainly very interesting because the police wouldn't arrest somebody unless they believed that there was sufficient evidence. That generally that's their modus operandi. What they then do is they assemble the evidence and they make a report, as they said there, to the Procurator Fiscal, and it is up to the Procurator Fiscal to decide whether or not to take the matter to court. And very often it's quite a long, drawn-out, tedious process. And one thing we can be certain of is, alleged or not, this is going to drag on for a long time, and it's going to drag on right into next year, which is the general election year as well. Niall says, it's going to be so funny, this show tonight. It absolutely is. Hard not to laugh the entire way through. Today has just been the most remarkable thing. Let's put up a picture of the man in question. Mr. Peter Murrell, the husband of Nicola Sturgeon. And you know what? I discovered today that this gentleman in question is 58 years old. Well, I mean, I don't want to say, but I mean, he looks older than 58, right? If you said that guy was 91, then you'd say, well, he's not looking too good for his age, you know. Okay, so that's the man there that is in custody at the moment, and it's the man in whose garden they put up one of those forensic tents. And let's just have a look at the photographs that were coming out of this today. It's like something from that Tom Hanks movie, The Burbs, that some of you might have seen, you know, in a humble suburb. Something's going on, and there was this pretty big tent. I mean, you could probably hold a wedding reception in there if you were so minded. In fact, that's maybe the tent from the wedding reception, I don't know. Anyway, that's sitting there right in front of the house. That picture would be sometime early this morning. Okay, let's stick up the next one there. That's there from the front, and I think that's an iconic picture, quite frankly. You've got the police vans there at either side. You've got the Morell's house in the background. You've got the forensic tent, and you've got a couple of wheelie bins, right? A green one and a brown one. Now, I'm not sure what the brown one is used for these days. That might be the one that the council give you, that you can put your discarded yes flags in. I'm presuming it's for discarded SNP tat. They certainly do need wheelie bins around Scotland for that these days. Okay, what else? What's the next one we've got up? Yeah, that's an aerial shot from the Twitter account Geo Allison. I'm currently on the scene collecting aerial footage at the Uddingston home of Peter Murrell and Nicola Sturgeon is being searched by Police Scotland. Officers are currently searching the house, photographing items and moving some to a tent in the garden. And there you can see the tent. Wonder what they're doing in there. Okay. And this was another place that was raided this morning. The police pulled up early this morning. That's the SNP headquarters, are located in the building at the far end there on the left. That's the SNP Scottish National headquarters, and it's just behind the Scottish Parliament, and you can see there's enough police vans there. There's another shot of that from another angle. So think about this, right? There you go. You've got actually the National Police raiding the HQ of the governing party of the country. Come on. This is ridiculous. This is unbelievable. But it's happening, folks. There it is in plain sight. Could you have imagined this would ever happen? Would you imagine it would come to this? Oh my goodness me. Okay, hold off on the pictures for a moment. But do you know what? And it's so ironic, right? But this revolves around £600,000 that the SNP raised to break up the greatest country in the world. Okay, what a wicked plan they had to break up the greatest nation in the world. And so some people who really should have known better gave their money to that terrible project. But look what's happened. As a consequence of that, it's that fundraising drive which is in the process of causing that party considerable grief and might even bring it down entirely. So in a way you think, isn't that the way it should have been? There is justice, it seems, because goodness me, are the SNP really going to recover from this? And if so, how so? And how long is it going to take them to recover from this? Hello to TC and to Kat, who says, Alistair and Niall, what a team. Aren't we just? Paul says, good evening from White Cliffs country, which is Kent, right? Good evening to Robert and to D. Stanners and to Nelson. Adam says, good evening from the heart of the great British state of England. Hey, Harvey. Catherine laughs and says, what a great day. Robert says, I told you guys, it's just the start. This is just the beginning. Bry says, it's been a good day and hopefully more to face the music. As Cromwell once said to his soldiers, keep your powder dry. That's a good phrase. Christopher says, a wonderful day for Scotland. Peter Murrell's... Murrell or Murrell? I never really know. Peter Murrell's arrest. Paul believes the tide is turning in our favour. Now, Ian says, no smoke without fire unless your name is Donald Trump. There is smoke without fire when you think about it, because there's such things as smoke bombs, and politicians throw them all the time at each other. But it may well be that this isn't a smoke bomb. This is a serious outbreak of fire within the SNP. There's a good one. James says, from baby boxes to evidence boxes. I should note that one down. Might use that one, James. Thank you. And TC does believe that it's the hateful haters getting their comeuppance at last. And Tucker on TikTok says, Police Scotland told Sturgeon in advance of the pending investigation, hence why she jumped ship. That's a reference to the fact that this morning, we are told, Sturgeon left the house 25 minutes before the police arrived. leaving Peter to face the music. And the whereabouts of the former First Minister of Scotland are not known at the moment, although we did see a rumour circulating on Twitter, which we cannot substantiate, that she was spotted at Prestwick Airport this morning. Which would make sense, wouldn't it? Because you couldn't really seek solace or anonymity in a Scottish hotel. Not today, anyway. Derek believes that she'll be questioned and she'll deny all. She probably will, and she'll probably say that she doesn't ever recall meeting a man called Peter. At least she doesn't have any record of ever having done so. And there will be an element of the Scottish media and population who will believe her. But thankfully that's an ever decreasing element of the Scottish population. Stuart says, where's the magpies? Debbie says, a couple of years older than us, Alistair. This is Peter Murrell. He looks ancient. Well, it must be quite difficult having Nicola Sturgeon around the house all day, I would have to imagine. It probably does age a man, so maybe we've got to give him some of the benefit of the doubt as far as that's concerned. They'd be like, oh, Nicola, could you pass the salt, please? No, I'm not passing the salt. You get your own salt. Why do I have to do everything? I'm just asking for the salt. What, you taking advantage of me because I'm a woman? No, I just would like the salt, please. Oh, forget it. I'll get the salt myself. She's probably one of those. Mr. White says, how did she not get out the house before the corrupt officers arrived? She must have been told that they were coming. Catherine says, they say a van is in the tent. Well, that's an interesting turn up for the books, isn't it? Because a van is like a metal tent, but you put a tent over it. I always used to wonder, if there was a murder and they put up a tent, I used to wonder, what if the murder was in a tent? Would they put a tent over a tent? Apparently, today they're putting a tent over a van. Derek is bringing us up to date with the wheelie bin situation. Brown ones are for gardening and green are general waste. But that may vary in different districts and counties. Well, Adam's coming in as well. Brown is for your plastic, glass and cans. Green is for your gardening. Oh, that's opposite the case then in Leicestershire. It's different up here. Debbie says that she's seeing tweets from Nats who are saying they'll still vote SNP. No doubt they will. Let's get back to one or two of those pictures. What was the next picture that we had? Preston journalist believes it's a complete implosion. That's Ash, that Preston journalist, who'll be on the show. Coming up shortly. Next week or the week thereafter. Yeah, let's get back to these pictures then. Yes, here's a picture of a chap, and fair play to him, he seems to have arrived outside the Murrell's household today with a very nice 3x2 Union Jack flag, I might add. And that looks suspiciously like one of our flags, because we've got the exact same design. Let's show our design. Here we go. You can see it there. Very handy. As we always say, it's always good to have one on hand because you never know when you're going to need it. And we'll put the link up of where you can get this extremely good value for money. 3x2, fits into the glove compartment of your car. Buy two so that you've got one in the car and you've got one in the house, because you never know when you might need it. And with the coronation coming up, it's always a good time to fly it out your window as well. Now, here's a delivery today. I don't know if that's a delivery or a taken away. It's an Amazon Prime box being held by a copper, and a wit there has said, "Is that the paper shredder that arrived too late?" If it is, it looks like it's going back in the police van. Now, what are we to make of this picture? Connor Gillis is a journalist with a mainstream newspaper. He says, detectives seen with a spade and garden equipment in the rear garden of Peter Murrell and Nicola Sturgeon's Glasgow home. Officers spotted with blue tarpaulin sheets, a stills camera and laptop as they examined the area around the garage. I just said earlier that this was like The Burbs, the Tom Hanks film, The Burbs, where he suspected his neighbours of burying dead bodies in the garden. And I'm not saying that there's any dead bodies there, but I do think there are some metaphorical skeletons in that particular garden, right? Some metaphorical skeletons are being exhumed from the back garden there of the Murrell household. And just, this is such a funny photograph, right? And this was sent to us by somebody who was watching the evening news at 6 o'clock. Poor old Humza, right? And you've got to feel sorry for this guy. He was interviewed by the media, and that's, now which one is Humza's the one on the left wearing the blue jacket, right? And he's got this picture behind him of some windswept chap who's thinking this is the funniest day ever. So, as somebody pointed out, if you're going to get interviewed by the media, are you going to stand next to a photograph like that? He's got a lot to learn. He's got a lot to learn, Humza, right? That's incredible that he would get himself pictured there, because that guy there on the right, he's expressing how we all feel today. He's expressing how we all feel, and Humza doesn't have the wit to see that. Oh my, I laughed out loud at that photograph. Now, in 7 minutes' time, we'll have Niall Fraser, who is our guest, and we're going to just be talking about this, and we're going to be roasting the Murrells, because we have to. It's the day for it. But before we do that, we'll have our competition coming up at the bottom of the hour, and a cracking wee prize, folks. A cracking wee prize. This is one of the few remaining badges. Check that out. What a attractive wee thing that is. It has got the flags of Scotland, England, Northern Ireland and Wales around a Union Jack with a crown, and through the middle it says maintain Union. Now, there's very few of these around. When we were selling these, they were going at $6.99. That's one of our few remaining ones. And when I asked the question, send your answer to contact@aforceforgood.uk, and if you've never done it before, then you're in with a good chance of winning. So I'll ask a question about this day in British history in a moment, but that's the prize. Now, talking about British history, before we go into that, our new magazine has arrived in the office. Check it out. Union Heart, Union of Crowns. Now, that has gone today. That has gone today to all the monthly donors who request to be put on the magazine mailing list. And it's a 12-page issue dedicated entirely to James VI in this 420th anniversary year of the Union of the Crowns, when the Scots king James VI became king also of England and declared himself King of Great Britain. So that's our magazine, and if you want to get it, you can become a monthly donor from £3 a month, and you'll find the link in the threads. And if you'd just like to buy it, then you can get it at our shop. I'll just put up the shop link here. There you go, you can get it at our shop. Brilliant. Now, we've got our guest coming on in 4 minutes. Before then, I just want to talk about this day in British history. On this day in British history, a man was born in the village of Lesmahago, here in Lanarkshire, and his name was Alexander Muir, and he was born on the 5th of April 1830, and he immigrated as a child to Scarborough in Toronto, near Toronto. And like many British Canadians of the time, he grew up to strongly identify with the idea of Canada as part of the British Empire and the British Company of Nations. And he wrote the unofficial Canadian anthem, which is called The Maple Leaf Forever. And he wrote that in 1867, having served with the Queen's Own Rifles of Canada in action against the Fenian Brotherhood, who in a spasm of incredible silliness decided to invade Canada, much to their own demise. And he fought back against them, and then he wrote The Maple Leaf Forever, which is the unofficial national anthem of Canada. Okay. And what I did actually in 2019 was I took his poem and I adapted it, and I called it The Union Jack Forever, and I changed his words with full acknowledgement of his role in writing the poem. And you'll find that poem, which I adapted, in this issue of Union Heart. The Union Jack Forever. In days of yore from Scotland's shore, James VI, our dauntless hero, came and created first the Union flag on Britain's fair domain. Here may it wave, our boast, our pride, and joined in love together, the thistle, shamrock, rose and twine, the Union Jack forever. Cool. Well, let's show you first, by way of introduction for Niall, who's coming up in 2 minutes, let's show you this 2-minute TikTok video of Niall in action.
I'm here at the Wallace Monument, a symbol of freedom, using what's left of my free speech to draw a line under the gender-bending, anti-science, pro-fantasy society the SNP have adopted for Scotland and its citizenship, like many other countries around the globe. You might not like what I've got to say here, but it's the truth. Sometimes it hurts, but the truth ultimately sets you free. There are only two sexes. There are only two genders. Any deviation from this fact is an attempt to deceive, an attempt to make you believe the unbelievable, an attempt to make you disregard the fundamental laws of nature. Scotland isn't the only place in the world facing this psychological assault, but we can be the first to defeat the wicked practice of confusing innocent children, the wicked practice of taking advantage of young impressionable minds. Convincing innocent children that they're born in the wrong body is diabolical. Anyone watching this that's considering transitioning, which means mutilating yourself physically or chemically in order to appear more like the other sex, needs urgent help. If you're in this situation, do not transition. Don't do it because you can't go back if you regret the decision. It's utterly despicable that we've got politicians in this country, in the ancient country of ours, openly promoting dangerous unreality. It goes to show just how far we've plunged as a society. Nobody seems to have grasped just how serious, how grave this situation actually is. So to visualise what the SNP and the Greens are doing to us, I've brought along my old biology textbook. This is what the fascist SNP are doing. This is what the pushers of gender theory are doing. They're setting fire to a millennia of knowledge and replacing it with delusion. It's time for Scots to wake up, otherwise the children of Scotland will have no future.
Wow. Niall is a firebrand, as you can see. Now, just before I bring him on, the question for this little badge here, and send your answers to contact@aforceforgood.uk, is, on this day, Alexander Muir was born in Lesmahago back in 1830, and he wrote the unofficial anthem for what country? He wrote the unofficial anthem for what country? Answer and winner at the top of the hour. Ladies and gentlemen, please do welcome Niall Fraser in the house.
Hello,
Niall.
Alistair, how you doing?
Very well, thank you. Thank you. What a day of days, isn't it? I mean, and you're so good that you're the guest on the programme today. Couldn't have
I've
timed it better, could we?
I've literally lucked it. I mean, if you'd said a few weeks ago that this was happening on the day, I wouldn't believe you. I literally wouldn't have believed you. There's no way. I mean, just to think this is all happening in real time today, it's just astounding. I'm sure you agree. It's just, I mean, did you ever think you would see these images? SNP HQ getting raided, Sturgeon's garden getting dug up. Did you ever think it would come to that?
It's beyond belief, is what it absolutely is, and it's probably just it's maybe life working out as it should, you know, the complete madness of these years, and now it's payback time. We'll just have to see. But before we get into talking about that, now, would you just like to introduce yourself to the viewing public, those who may not perhaps be aware of the work that you've done recently in the past?
So I'm just generally a member of the public who was sort of politically activated during the lockdown, and I joined the pro-union party All for Unity during the 2020 election cycle, or 2021, sorry, where, similar to Alba's situation, where we're trying to maximise the pro-union majority in Holyrood by encouraging people to vote for your pro-union parties in the constituency, and then All for Unity on the list to take advantage of the electoral system up here, which is quite convoluted. Similar to Alba's tactics, where they were saying vote SNP and then Alba on the list. Obviously, SNP just want maximum SNP members, so they even poo-pooed that tactic, which is ridiculous. But I got involved in politics through Humza Yousaf specifically with his hate crime bill. I thought it was so malicious, so vindictive to set upon the public that somebody had to stand up and really combat what is what's being taught in our schools, and just the way we're being governed is so horrendous, and obviously it's resulted in what's happened today. This is the culmination of years of strife, years of maliciousness. So, I mean, generally, to sum up, I'm just a member of the public who's politically activated, and now I'm hoping to activate more people.
Absolutely, and it's so good that you're in a situation where you can be politically active, because there's a lot of members of the public who are concerned, but very few, because of their particular situation in life, are able to take that forward in a political way. So people like yourself at the end of the day, there's very few people who will actually put themselves forward, especially on matters which are controversial, and especially on matters where they're going to potentially be attacked by the powers that be. And you mentioned Humza Yousaf there. You're absolutely right about his hate speech law, which he did bring out and which he engineered through the Scottish Parliament, which was an absolutely terrible infringement of freedom of speech. And that's still with us, of course. That's still sitting there ready to clamp down on anybody that he doesn't like. But what do you see, like, don't you think, as I do, it's almost like the chicken's coming home to roost? You couldn't think of anybody being given a poisoned chalice in the way that Yousaf has been given it, and suddenly this chalice has like burst the poison all over his hands. I mean, how do you think this is going to play out for him?
I wouldn't call it a poison chalice. It was like a poison Hindenburg full of, a Hindenburg level balloon full of poison that's then burst into flames, and now Humza's trying to escape the fiery wreckage, along with the rest of the SNP members. I mean, I've said for weeks now that the SNP is a dead party. They're dead. They're electorally null and void at this point. And I think today just cemented that. I mean, people are going to be waking up tomorrow to all the newspapers, blanket across Britain. Peter Murrell, husband of Nicola Sturgeon, arrested. And all the images of the tent in the garden, them digging up the garden, that's going to put even the most ardent SNP voters off. And I mean, they're totally gone now. And I think we are seeing the real-time demise of a once huge party, a once huge mechanism. They've turned this, one of their biggest follies was turning this independence debate into an industry. That's what they've done. They've turned the Indie debate into a perpetual carrot, or we know it's not a carrot, but it's to their votership. It is a carrot to them, is this independence. They've pushed it and pushed it and pushed it, and yet it's become an industry for them, and they want to keep the industry rolling on. That's why they haven't acted on any of this stuff. I think after the 2014 referendum, and the resounding defeat, if they just said, right, okay, we're just going to try to govern correctly, but they doubled down. They doubled down, and they got even more vicious in their attacks. And it's morphed. I mean, I'm just trying to wait for Nicola Sturgeon or Peter Murrell to blame Westminster for the arrest this morning. You know what I mean? That's coming later on the line.
Yes. And you see, this has to go right through the party. The alleged problems with the finances. Yes. I mean, that impacts every local treasurer of every SNP branch. It impacts every MSP who's been involved with any of the funding at all for their constituencies. Everybody is intertwined in this spider's web. So it's not just one man that's going to, if there is a fall to be taken, it's not just one man, it's the whole apparatus,
it's the whole
mechanism, you know, and that's the most remarkable thing about this. And I'm so happy that it was the money that's got them in trouble was the money that they purposely raised to try to destroy the UK. Okay,
and that's it. Sort of typifies the whole thing, and it typifies the SNP as a whole. Is that they would rather sort of piss away the money that their own supporters have given them for a specific cause that they supposedly believe in. They'd rather piss that away up the wall than actually act upon it and use the money in a sort of constructive way, or at least in constructive towards their voters, or in the eyes of their voters. So it really does sort of sum up the SNP in their ways. You know, they'd rather take their own supporters for a ride.
Yes.
And it really is abominable. And I think this is why we're seeing the end of the SNP. We're watching it in real time. I've said for the last 2 weeks that they're dead. And now I think they are really, really dead. If they're already 6 feet under, Alistair. already.
Yeah, yeah. We're entering, well, next year, probably towards the end of the year, I would imagine, is going to be the general election. And this is still going to be getting played out. I mean, it depends if the procurator does decide to take it to court, then it's, well, when are they going to do that? But it's going to last for most of next year. And so you could actually be looking at them going into a general election. And it may be that the Tories will decide to call the general election even earlier just because of this, I don't know. But you could see them going into a general election while they've got several key members going through the legal system in a very embarrassing way.
It's just incredible.
I can't think of anything like it in British history, really.
No, I think I was writing a wee bit today. I mean, this is bigger news than Trump getting arrested. This is the biggest news in the world as far as I'm concerned. I think people are sort of, again, we want to preface this by saying Murrell is, just like any of us, innocent until proven guilty. And then, a philosopher once said that we should defend the law as we were to defend the city gates. So I'm right behind innocence until proven guilty. But I mean, the damage is done with the images. It really has. I mean, who is going to look at the images of the Police Scotland digging up Sturgeon's garden and think, I'm still going to vote for them? It's just inconceivable at this point. It really is.
Yes.
And when you say Humza Yousaf is, he had one of the best quotes ever this morning. When he was asked about the Murrell's arrest, he says, and I'm quoting him here, it's not great for trust in the SNP. I think that's the understatement of the century. It really is. I mean, it's catastrophic for the SNP and their credibility. It's catastrophic for their trustworthiness. And as the self-styled continuity candidate, he said publicly that Murrell's a proven winner and he wanted his backing. I mean, who wouldn't he want Murrell in his corner, he says? Well, I think Humza's resignation will be forthcoming in mere weeks. Or a week or so into his tenure. It's just outrageous things. You couldn't imagine this happening.
Yeah. It's not great for the SNP in the same way that the Titanic sinking was not great for its journey to New York. It's like that. But you say Humza resigning. I'm not sure I even want Humza to resign because that's just too much stress almost, because who are they going to then get in? It will be Kate Forbes, but she's not going to want to take it, right? She's not going to want to take that job. There will be nobody. This is the thing, that if he resigns, there's going to be nobody who's going to step up at this time. So he's stuck there, and it's going to be another of his classic fails. And it's going to be one that he can't really get out of for a long time. Yeah.
Well, I mean,
you say you could be right. Maybe he will resign and just say, forget it, and I'm leaving, and I'm going to get a job in normal society. But then, what kind of job could Humza get? I mean, seriously.
I mean, you're correct in saying that. I don't think he's going to find much employment after this, but. I mean, in himself, I think he'd be very reticent to relinquish power. I don't think he's going to give it up lightly. And you're correct in saying that this new position of First Minister, if theoretically was to resign, nobody wants that job, especially not as the SNP leader. Nobody wants that job. I mean, this whole thing, where's Mike Russell in this situation? The new CEO of the SNP, where's he in this situation? I was looking at his tweets today, and I think he's pretty silent. They've all went radio silent. And this is the thing, across the board, we're witnessing the death of a political party here. And it's coming fast, it's coming thick. And I think this is probably just the beginning, as we can all sort of speculate as to what's going on. But the fact that they're digging up the garden is just really strange. And it's not something you'd expect from a normal probe, not someone at all. When I got woken out of my bed this morning, phoned up, like this is going down, and I get sent the pictures, and we're all wondering why is there an incident Why is there an incident tent? Why is there forensic gear? Why is there all this stuff there? This is the question that we need answered. But I'm sure we need to allow the police to do their work. And never once have I been more happy to see a Police Scotland van. I'll tell you that. I've never once been happier to see one. And full credit to the officers involved in this. I mean, there must have been 15 or 20 people raiding the SNP HQ the day, taking out boxes upon boxes of evidence. So I think we're witnessing the end. End.
Yeah, that was a remarkable thing. I saw a small video. Well, there'll be more videos that will appear in time of them coming down and out of the SNP HQ carrying these evidence boxes. And I don't know how full they were or the entire story behind that, but they were definitely taking out some boxes, some of which did have contents in them. And I thought, that's from a political party that's running this country. They've raided the HQ of that. That's like the weirdest thing. I've never seen that. And I mean, when you think about it, it kind of makes you angry as well that the Scottish media, that this has come as such a surprise to us, because for so long the Scottish media, by which I mean the mainstream media, they must have turned some kind of blind eye to all of this during the Sturgeon years. Because there was hints of it, but they didn't go after it in a way that they could have. So they were obviously, they felt themselves restrained in some way, or they didn't want to upset the great leader.
There might be a certain level of that public sentiment is totally turned on the SNP, totally turned, and you would have felt the tide turning on the SNP over the last few years. But now it's turned in such a degree that even the police are saying, absolutely not, we're not putting up with this a second longer. The media class in Scotland, I think you're right, have turned a blind eye to this. But again, it's not as if they're turning a blind eye. I'll just stick up for the media at the moment. But the reason that the SNP have become scandal-proof, I call them scandal-proof, because once a scandal breaks on the ferries, there's another scandal the next day. And then by the time you get to the next scandal, there's another one the next day. So that because there's so many scandals, they become scandal-proof. It's literally one after the other, after the other, after the other. And I mean, if you go on for hours about the amount of scandals and missing money and all these things that happen within the SNP, all the wasted funds, but none of it gets addressed. None of it gets solved, because there's always something the next day. Always.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. There's something interesting that Paul says. Remember that during the last war, in fact, the MI5 raided the SNP offices. I didn't know about that. That's interesting.
Well, I mean, I was in a Twitter space earlier on, and there's, I mean, a lot of nationalists in the space, and they were saying, well, this is the end of the SNP. They're going into most of their votership, if they're nationalists to the core, will end up flitting to Alba and to ISP and these other smaller sort of independence parties, and it will dilute the cause. I think once and the MI5 thing, a lot of people saying, well, especially ardent nationalists saying, well, this is because MI5 have infiltrated the SNP over the last X amount of years, and this is so really they're become fringe conspiracy theorists and saying things like this. Whereas I think the likelier case is that the SNP party as a whole has become too comfortable, too reliant on the large wages, too comfortable eating big lunches at Holyrood and doing nothing and sitting on their hands and watching the country just disintegrate into or watching Scotland just fall away. I mean, the life expectancies on the bin, our drug deaths are at an all-time high, higher than anywhere else in Europe. Alcohol deaths, everything is off the charts bad in Scotland, and yet nothing gets done.
Yeah. Well, they don't
and
have...
It's not because they want to fix anything.
And even if they wanted to, they don't have the mentality that's necessary to fix things like some of the terrible drug deaths and stuff like that. I mean, if you want to sort that, it often requires a pretty hard approach regarding various social things that they have to do, including police action and so on. And the woke SNP doesn't have the mentality to sort out problems like these deep-rooted problems that exist in society. They're, they don't have. They're too liberal-minded on certain of those very, very serious life and death issues, and so
yeah, I think they do lack the courage. I mean, the video that you introduced me with. I mean, that took. I mean, the amount of people that told me, don't do that. Don't burn the book, Niall. You're going to ruin your career before you've even kicked a ball. And I'm saying it doesn't matter. It does not matter. Somebody needs to say it. And somebody needs to sort of be the tip of the spear in this. And we all know, because I don't know what I say, we've all got a set of eyes because I know a few blind people, but we all know the difference between men and women. And this is the most blatant lie that we've been told here in Scotland and told across sort of Britain as a whole, is that men and women can just change and just change over. Sex is immaterial, doesn't matter, and that we can just flip between. And I just simply won't accept that a man can be a woman because he's holding a bit of paper. I just won't accept it, and the public in Scotland won't accept it either. So this is. It's the culmination of all these lies that has led to this. The police didn't want to be sending. They didn't see the reputational damage it's done to the police by sending people like Isla Bryson to a female jail. It totally ruins the reputation of the police, the prison service. I mean, the whole judicial system is under threat by these weird and wonderful policies that the SNP and the Greens keep throwing at us. And again, it's against public sentiment. I mean, public sentiment can just, as far as Humza believes, it can just be put in the bin. They can lead or move public sentiment, wherever they want. And it's not fair on the general public to be led in such a manner down a dark path that nobody wants to be going. Nobody wants to go down this path.
Yeah. Well, do you know, if you're right, and I do hope that you're right in the long term, that this is the end of the SNP, then it will create a new window for different ideas that hitherto have been blocked by these people. And it may well be that the common sense views that you were articulating in that video by which we introduced you, may be that they'll be able to get in there again and be heard and be accepted. And people will be able to see others giving voice to it. Because what can sometimes happen is when everybody in a particular field, like inside Holyrood, is really all of one mind, then that attitude becomes society's attitude. But once the governing class have a different attitude, then their attitude becomes society's attitude. So if we can change that governing class sufficiently as a consequence of this fall of the SNP, then we may find these ideas can get back in there, can get heard again. And so it could be, and that's what we need to be working on, is creating those opportunities for these ideas.
You're spot on. I think this is a golden opportunity. With the demise of the SNP, imagine how much votership that they used to command. That's all up for grabs. I've said, because the SNP are dead, I've said, a couple images that the vultures are circling above. Anis Sarwar and Douglas Ross are waiting to pick apart the SNP votership. But this is really a time for a full reset of the sort of political system that we've got now. And I think people should really abandon the established parties. Why is Douglas Ross not standing up and saying the things that I am? When we're all thinking it, why has nobody in that parliament got the courage to stand up and say what they think? I think we've got politicians in that parliament that rather run a focus group and see what they think than say what they in themselves think. I think we need to get away from groupthink and more to individual sort of think, where this is how I feel as a person, rather than this is what this focus group's saying. People really need to start standing up for themselves.
Yeah, I think so. Just while you're saying that, this article which I read this week, the SNP might be in trouble, but unionism is still at risk of dying out. And that's by Tim Stanley, and he does make a good point, and he makes a couple of phrases here. He says, Nicola Sturgeon has won 8 out of 8 elections by shifting Scotland's imagination in her favour. And I quite like that concept, and he points out that unionism has to shift Scotland's imagination in our favour.
Yes.
And we can do that. People
Absolutely.
like yourself, people like A Force for Good. And it's ultimately a battle for the mind, and the mind is the mind and imagination.
Yes.
And romantic ideas. He talks about romantic unionism, and we have to keep promoting that as an alternative. And this is our chance.
The established parties don't want to think outside the box. You're right. There needs to be a new sort of creativity for Scotland going into the future. And, I think using our devolved powers that we've already got, we should be leading in, one, I think in the future we're going to have a massive problem with the transgender conveyor belt, creating people that are troubled, and they're going to be on the medical system for a long, long time. So why doesn't Scotland have a leading sort of medical thing to combat this? We need to be thinking into the future. We need to be using our devolved powers in order to sort of lead the rest of the UK as well in terms of policy, and say, well, this is what the Scots think. The Scots are doing things a bit differently, and maybe we should lead the rest of the United Kingdom out of the shadows as well. And Scotland does have a part in play in that. As a bigger part of the Union, there's no point breaking away our bonds. I think it's disgusting to think that we're going to leave our English brothers and sisters, Welsh brothers and sisters, Northern Ireland brothers and sisters, just leave them behind. I think it's absolutely abominable to think that. Well, we should be dragging them out the mud as well. But first we need to drag ourselves out the mud mentally.
Yes, I'll absolutely. You're so right in pointing that out. Because it's not like we're saying, oh yeah, we just all want to go back with what Rishi Sunak and Keir Starmer want. Because you look at some of the stuff that Keir Starmer's talking about that he's going to do if he gets elected, and as far as the transgender issue, it's just as bad, if not worse, than what Sturgeon was wanting. So we've got to be careful that we don't give the impression that we're happy with what, for example, the Labour Party have got cooked up for us. Whether it's Anas Sarwar or whether it's Keir Starmer throughout the UK, because they're the, as you used the word, which I really like, diabolical, some diabolical policies that
really
they've got lined up for us.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
They would never put their own kids through this sort of thing.
No.
Never. But then why would they sort of impose it upon the rest of the British kids? It's just really it's a disturbing situation in such a degree.
Yes, absolutely. Well, what we can do is we can speak out about it, and you've been a very positive voice on that, and I know that you spoke out on it when there was a campaign outside Holyrood as well back in January, organised by Glasgow Cabby. I know that you were one of the speakers, and in fact you can probably mark the beginning of Sturgeon's downfall from that event, and also the Let Women Speak event in George Square. And so you can really pat yourself on the back today, Niall, because a lot of this is work that you and others have been doing, and it's not at its culmination yet, but it's certainly the beginning of it. So
I do have one question for you though before we cut off. Is where can I get one of these wee badges that you've got? Because I seen one last week and they were absolutely phenomenal. The wee Force for Good love hat, absolutely beautiful.
Yeah.
So what's the shop on that? Great.
That's let's put up the shop link. It's a forceforgood.uk hyphen shop one. That's it there, and people. It's one of our best sellers, actually. Thanks for mentioning it.
No worries. It really is beautiful. I seen it last week.
It's great. And what we've also got, if you buy one of those, we'll send you free of charge as well our latest issue of Union of the Crowns, and we'll also write a wee card for you which is this classic painting that we turned into a greetings card of Neptune and Britannia riding the waves. Can't get better than that. Well, we've been putting up your links where people can get you, which is at twitter.com/Niall Fraser 8. That's NIALLFRASER 8. And you're also on Substack there, which is where you post your articles at niallfraser8.substack.com. Please, folks, check that out for some great Scottish wisdom. And I think your career's just beginning, Niall. You need to get into Parliament, and maybe you'll be the First Minister one day.
Maybe one day.
Absolutely.
I think it
could be sooner rather than later, the way things are going. I mean,
the way things are going, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if you told me...
left wanting the job.
That's right, that's right. You'll be in there next year, probably, the way things are going. Well, look, it's been great talking to you. It's been the top of the hour. Folks on YouTube, please do give us a subscribe. Any new viewers tonight? We've had a good show. We're up to 180 viewers there on YouTube, which was great. Please do subscribe and like our channel, because we've been going for 12 years or thereabout on YouTube, and we're nowhere near where we should be, even though we post every day on it. Anyway, that's just the system for you. But we'll fight back. Niall, we must have you on again. Thank you very much for everything. We'll say goodbye, and we hope to see you again soon.
Brilliant.
All the best
thanks
to you.
For all the viewers, and thanks for all the great comments, and thank you to yourself for having me on. Have a great night.
Absolutely. Have a great one. Bye now. Fantastic. What a great guest. Niall Fraser. A firebrand. Absolute firebrand. And so good that we've got people in Scotland like him who are outspoken and who say what they mean and mean what they say, and are very confident in expressing it. Great stuff. Christopher says a great show and an outstanding guest. Wasn't he just? Catherine says keep up the great work. Derek says don't forget the AFFG t-shirt and hoodies are on sale as well. Great quality clothing. Well, Derek is one of our great models for our stuff. I think Derek's got all our t-shirts just about. Super Typist says great viewing numbers tonight, wasn't it? Just, yes, we need that all the time on our platforms. Debbie says we need more people like Niall. MYM thought it was a great stream, as did Derek. Great stuff. Folks, we had a competition, and the competition was for this badge, and I asked that on this, I said that on this day, Alexander Muir was born in Lesmahago, and he wrote the unofficial anthem for which country? And the answer was Canada. And the winner is D. Stanners. Good for you, D. David, we will send this to you. You've already got one of these in the post to you, I know that. But you know what? We'll send you another one, and you can send it to your local MP. I'm sure you'll find somebody to send it to. What does this button do? Says, I bet YouTube cramps your broadcast for obvious reasons. Do you know what does this button do? We do fear the worst as far as that is concerned, because we're doing everything right on YouTube. Everything right. We can't do any more. Catherine has met Niall and says he's a good guy. Absolutely, 100%. Couldn't get through all the comments tonight because there was so many of them. So many of them. Folks, we'll be back next week at 7 o'clock, broadcasting on YouTube and Twitter and TikTok and Facebook. And if you're on YouTube, please do subscribe and click the bell for notifications, and you should hear about our show next week. And you can check out all the past shows and all the past stuff and share it around, please, because let's get the good word out for our UK unity and our solidarity and the positive message of hope and confidence in the future of the United Kingdom. So it just remains for me to say, folks, God bless the United Kingdom and God save the King. See you next week.